a lot of newbies get it into their head that somehow the desire for awakening is wrong in and of itself. Because, of course, they hear the platitude that, oh, all desire is wrong, all seeking is bad, and that you must end seeking. And so, of course, in their foolishness, they say, well, that means I shouldn't even seek enlightenment. That means I shouldn't even begin the path. And this is the classic mistake that I like to refer to as burning your ship before you've used it to cross the river or the ocean. Or it's like destroying your car before you've reached your destination. This is a very foolish move. So you got to watch out. The path begins with a serious desire for awakening. Now later, and we'll get there in a few more pictures, later you will need to let go of that desire, but right now you need that desire and you need it in spades. You need a lot of it. You're really missing it. So don't worry about seeking for enlightenment and how that's going to trap you in some sort of spiritual ego. That is the least of your problems right now because you are completely lost. You are suffering. You are clueless as to how to live life and what life is about. You are operating completely under the conditioning of your culture and your society, which has misled you and has addicted you in various ways. And has deluded you in various ways, and now you're going to have to fight through all of that. He goes on to say, quote, when you first affirm the vow to attain enlightenment, at that very moment, there is already a splendid enlightenment, end quote. Now, of course, that's not really true, so don't misunderstand what he's saying here. Just by affirming that you want to become enlightened, that's a very important step. That's where the whole path begins. But of course, that in and of itself is not enlightenment. Enlightenment is something altogether. Enlightenment is the ox. You might wonder, what is this ox? Why this metaphor of the ox? And what does it really stand for? The ox is enlightenment. It's your true nature. It's the absolute truth. It's what you're seeking. It's the answer to everything you've ever wanted in life. It's the answer to all of your suffering. It's the answer to the purpose of life. It's the answer to what is death. It's the answer to what is reality. It's the answer to what is God. It is consciousness. It is your true nature. It is the awareness of God, or absolute infinity, or void, or nothingness, or emptiness, or moksha, or nirvana, or the big self, or the no self. So we have all these different words from all these different traditions. Ein Sof, and that's from the Jewish tradition. And then we have Allah from the Islamic tradition. We have Brahman from the Hindu tradition. So you have all these different words. They're all pointing to the ox. That's what you're trying to find. Now, the Zen master goes on to say, quote, with discriminative thinking, you fall into the relative world. You jump into making comparisons. But discrimination only brings more discrimination, which only brings more discrimination until finally you don't know what is what. End quote. And that's where you find yourself right now, is in this discriminatory, dualistic mode of looking at the world. And it looks something like this, quote, I'm happy or I'm sad. I win, I lose. That was good, this was bad. These are the flames of discrimination which blaze up around us like a conflagration, plunging us into an all-consuming discrimination which traps us no matter which way we turn. You think to yourself, where do I find this thing called Kensho? And by Kensho, he also means Satori. These words are synonymous, and that's synonymous with awakening, just so you understand the Zen vocabulary here. And so he says, in your impatience, you may even start to think, who even needs this Kensho anyway? I'll take my deluded self just as it is. Everyone experiences a time when he says, I can't do it. I failed. At this time especially, you must not think to give up and return to your lay life, to the ordinary life of delusion. So this notion that I sometimes hear quite often when people hear about awakening or enlightenment, it's like, Leo, but yeah, all this seeking and searching, all of this spiritual questing, I mean, what's the big deal? I don't want to get, all hot and bothered about that. My life's not that bad. What's the problem, Leo? Well, you haven't suffered yet. See, you haven't suffered yet. When you really suffer, you're going to then maybe come back and rethink that line of thought. People trick themselves out of even beginning the journey. You see, that's the greatest trick the devil plays, is to get you to believe that there's not even a reason to begin this journey, because the devil will say something to you like, well, emptiness, nothingness. Well, who cares about this, Leo? If I attain emptiness, that sounds pretty bleak, sounds pretty nihilistic. Why would anyone want to attain emptiness? How's that going to improve my life? Why would I want to end the ego? Leo, I like being an ego. I just want to eat good food and chase girls and earn money. What's wrong with that? I think that'll work just fine. That's your ignorance. See, that's the devil in you speaking. That's the ego speaking. You got to be smarter than that, not to fall for those tricks. And lastly, he says, quote, remember the saying, a person of great talent is slow to mature. A person of great characters develops slowly, enduring great suffering along the way. So this here is preparing you for the long trek ahead to catch this ox. And sometimes people criticize me and they'd say, oh, Leo, why do you tell people that it takes thousands of hours? Why do you tell people that it involves suffering and it's so difficult when, Leo, it's so easy. It's here right now. You're already enlightened. Look, it's so simple. It's so simple. There's nothing hard about this. It's to prepare you. It's to prepare you. This is a difficult journey. Now, if you get lucky and it happens to come to you easily, great. But don't go in expecting that. This is like a journey to climb Mount Everest. You have to appreciate the significance of this journey that you're undertaking. Only then will you succeed. Because otherwise, as a fool, you just sort of rush in thinking that you can just run up the mountain. And then you realize, wait a minute, I'm running out of breath and it's getting cold and I'm running out of food and I need water and I'm getting tired and my legs are hurting and there's this snowstorm coming. And then what happens? Then you run back and then you never try it again. That's the foolish way to go about it. The smart way to go about it is to understand that this is something serious. This is something valuable. This is something that's worth your careful attention and the investment of your time and your effort. And it's worth a little bit of suffering and challenge, and it's worth a couple thousand hours of work. And the Zen master also says, quote, you will achieve nothing if you work on your koan only when you happen to think of it. And by koan, of course, that's one particular technique of attaining awakening. But he also here means meditation, he means yoga, he means self-inquiry, or any other spiritual process that you're using to attain your awakening. So he says, your efforts will result in nothing more than froth carried away in the stream. But if you push on straight ahead, single-mindedly without break, then there will be a time when suddenly your eye opens. See, so you got to be very consistent and persistent with this work.